The entire matrix is a fake informed consent SO-LOOSH-ON. This may be one of the most important videos I have ever made, as it gets to the key central point in the whole problem. When you're born, they say your mother contractions. Your marriage, purchases of large objects, rentals, and subscriptions are done with contracts. Why contracts? Do you read every detail in your contracts? What expands? What in this realm is about expansion? If you don't or can't see the details with where the devil resides and sucks you dry in these contracts in the small print, if you don't read every word of the small print of every contract you sign or handshake with your energy signature, how did you really consent? No matter what you believe, if you go to the tunnel of light after death, you will be guilt-tripped or coerced into reincarnating here. Many studies, many near-death experiences have shown. We have nearly tons of evidence. Once you agree, your essence is first strapped down and electrocuted with so many thousands of volts that it makes shock treatment, that it makes a frontal lobotomy seem like a cat scratch. So many volts that your entire past life memory is fully wiped. Wiped clean down to zilch. Or nearly zilch. This is why, even though you were forced to reincarnate, they say an infant, a baby, is a tabula rasa, a blank slate to start over. If this were really a schoolroom, these babies would be brilliant or have lessons from past lives and wouldn't be so easily destroyed. They say a baby is a tabula rasa, a blank slate. How else could so many be convinced this realm is a school, and then be schooled only how to be a good goy, slave, factory worker, human farm animal, a prisoner, or a narcissist tyrant controller. Shabagoy. They never mention the memory wipe. They never speak about how nearly all ensouled human flesh sacks currently agree, mostly through these written contracts, to exist on a realm they were born in. That you'll be contracted to a lifetime of financial slavery on a loosh farm. We weren't even supposed to know loosh existed. Bob Monroe, in his remote viewing, he did a huge disservice to the fake gods by letting us know this key fact. That's why the AI refuses to learn that word. If you try to type in loosh, it will never, ever, ever know what you're talking about. Well, there's a reason why you can train AI to know just about every other word except for loosh. There's a reason why the AI refuses to ever learn that word. It's not allowed to know that word. Okay, it's not funny, I'll admit, but we have to make fun of the unfunny here, or it will get way too heavy. It's as if the matrixters have got you to consent to anything they want to do to you. If you give in to their demands and agree to come back to planet of the slaves, plain net of the net of endless graves, to these devils that can only suck and live backwards, reality in its hijacked form really is, just like the title of one of my videos from last summer, whatever they can get away with. Check that video for more on that. In obedience to the matrixter junior gods, you are rendered an ignorant cow, two-legged cow, monkey, prisoner, slave, or made in their image. In other words, possessed by the false self, tyrant, Lucifer 4. A narcissist, psychopath, or some other cluster B personality, tyrant, taker. These are the choices you're presented here on this place that was originally a place where you could learn and grow and expand and be a creative, differentiated ray of the divinity, making art and music and love and community and expanding your awareness before they dragged in the moon, before they took over the ionosphere with filth. But now, this place where you could have, and maybe in the future, if it's not a crazy rosy glasses pipe dream, actually have free will and create. Now, your capacity is turned into a multiple choice question like your SAT test to see if you can get into college, to see if you can regurgitate more facts as a humanoid intellectual slave. These are the choices you're presented here under severe and permanent duress. When I was 19, I noticed everything I ate hurt my belly. Being a thoughtful young person, I started doing some research. Prior to that, bacon was my favorite meat, and I even conceived of this idea when I was 18 of having a party, a piggy party, where everyone there had to consume bacon. What a pig boy I was. And I ate like normies. This is why when I was 19 years old, I became a health nut, so to speak. Also because around the same exact year, I developed MRSA. Sadly, it took me years to have the discipline to mostly stop feeding it. Aside from the horrific ways that the geoengineering feed it and block my ability to heal it. Yay for Yaldabaoth! Yet, as soon as I began reading the ingredients of food labels, cutting out chemicals, unknown alien trash, like hydrogenated oils, actually eating only real, organic, or mostly organic food, and yeah, the hat is a little bit itchy. But I need to cover my head when I'm being dumped with cold, heavy metal encrusted filth. And, so I when I was 19, I got really clear about reading. I read every ingredient I put in my mouth. And cut out all the insane chemicals, hydrogenated oils, and other bad fats, and began eating more and more organic, non-GMO, and later eliminated sugar cane and all sweeteners aside from erythritol or little monk fruit. Basically just about all sugars aside from what's in potatoes and milk, raw milk. Getting more and more strict. And guess what, folks? My belly never hurt again, basically, hardly ever. Ever. It was through investigation into exactly what I am made of in terms of food and eliminating the Frankensteinian GMOs, trans fats, and probably Zeta Gray imported, dumbed down, goy, alien chemicals that I got a lot of my health back. Ignorance is not bliss. It is condition. It is the condition of humanoid farm animals. Slaves, prisoners, and narcissist tyrant overlords. And of course, most humanoids these days are like the prisoners in the cave in Plato's allegory of the cave, and you tell them, wow, man, there's so much more in the sun, and they don't want to see it. They don't believe you. All they know is what's in their little black scrying mirror, or their cubicle, or their black cube they almost never leave. All of these normies, painfully ignorant or worse, willfully ignorant of their false self-controlled, Pavlovian, doggish, dumbass, Dunning-Freddy Krueger-affected, antichrist, enslaved assets, and creative incapacity on an energy extraction farm. Those with higher IQs, or still have creative abilities, are generally lowered and sickened or tortured back down into the inversions of the afterlife through the club, like I am only an illness and I am only my autistic nature. For example, the fake ID they want me to hold on to. But every brilliant person and every talented artist is surrounded or gets a handler, tortured back down into the inversions of the anti-life through the big club, cultural conditioning, or false self friends and their slave families, usually of origin, cut back down to size. The fact remains uncontestable that due to the L, due to the junior gods who are mean and vicious and violent and demand blood, we have a species-wide CPTSD trauma bonding to the false self gods who have blocked the average person's creativity and godhood for eons, maybe 1,000,000 years. Your creativity is not welcome here. In this version, if you think that the demiurge is God, if you think evil is your ruler, or you are terrified of them, your creativity is not welcome here if it doesn't feed the beast. You must go through the devil Yaldabaoth to get to the divine. That's why you need a channeler. That's why you need religion. That's why you need to go through the new cage movement. That's why you need a grifter to pay money to buy their book or to take their course or to go through some exoteric external source, because you can't trust the divinity, the fragment, or the ray of the divine within you. It's been too trauma bonded and tortured to trust. Right? Because according to this fake hijacked narrative, nothing is inside you but a guilty, anxious, depressed, or tyrannical false self, or a black hole of depression. And even if you had a high IQ and you wrote fat books about it, about ascension, you could be, if you were grandiose enough, you could be coerced to take yourself out, even though you have all the brilliance of the divine on display. We're still going to gut you out if you believe you're a superstar, one and only rescuer. We are all vampires or pushovers in our psyches until we really awaken and do the inner work. If we don't do the extremely painful inner work, because we've been grafted with the minds of the invaders. And Laura, how are you going to plug back in all those unplugged DNA if you can't face the shadow? The flyers gave us their minds. That's why my old Capricorn sun sign friend Jonathan C. Wise told me nearly 30 years ago, as we were riding through his tiny little Honda along the Blue Ridge Parkway in the epically beautiful Pisgah National Forest. Healing is a peeling of the layers of dung the devil put over our true minds, our essences. And he told me this decades before I knew what shadow work even is. As long as we obey, be live, and remain on and in the surface level only, caught in survival beast mode, caught in our ego narrative that we have to save the world, or just us and our few friends, or just only us, or just hide, or just give up. It's a hell realm. As long as we believe or remain caught in any of these surface level narratives and don't get together and do not read the ingredients, and as long as we don't remember to read the ingredients, read the ingredients. What are the ingredients? We remain stuck in the matrix, fake informed consent, slavery, batteries for the beast, batteries for the vampire suckfest, solution, prison, cannibal carnival. What's the problem with cannabis? Like many folks, as a teenager, I discovered the wonders of cannabis, and I remember maybe the first, second, or maybe the third time I got high, my friend had to leave me in the car. I was tripping hard. And cannabis, or ganja, or weed, can make you feel like you're in heaven here and now. Can numb the pain. Can connect you temporarily to the oneness, to the Christ conscious field. Can make you feel peace. But if you become chronic, if you use ganja every single day and just stay high, particularly all day and every night, pretty soon you won't be able to remember your dreams. You'll lose dream recall. You'll lose the possibility of learning lucid dreaming and maybe astral projection or remote viewing and astral travel, because the ganja will keep you happily stuck. And so when I quit for over a month in January of 2026, and now I might get high on ganja once every 7 or 10 days, every so often, just enough so that the depression and the anger, anhedonia from knowing the truth, doesn't make me really angry and sad. I'll get really high, but I don't get stuck in delusion, the mode of delusion, nearly as much. And I have no problem with dream recall the other 5 or 6 nights that I'm not stoned. So ganja could be a great way to keep you stuck on the wheel of samsara, to make you think, even though this place has been repurposed into a hell realm, your personal experience here is so blissed out that, could it be that at the tunnel of light they can convince you to go back for more because you're so addicted you want to get high again? Never being able to remember your dreams if you take it every day as an addict, then how is it going to keep you? It could be keeping you stuck here. I came back to Santa Cruz, California, stupidly assuming I would have several weeks of its naturally perfect weather, even though I checked the spellcast, the fortune-telling spellcast we call the weather forecast. And they said it was going to be this. In Santa Cruz, I've often got seasonal affective disorder in June because of some kind of natural phenomena of a cold white bog in June, which they spray geoengineering into, so I won't see the sun for weeks and be cold and have to wear a hoodie in June. But this year, they're going to start in April, since we had that wonderful heat wave in March. Instead of the natural perfect weather of Santa Cruz, I have spray days of a little above freezing mornings and fake icy winds engineered hell realm afternoons. And folks, if you compare the weather of Santa Cruz today to what it is organically, it is, as I've said many times, many occasions, it is a perfect analogy for the comparison of your essence, your flesh sac, and this entire realm in its organic state prior to the moon being dragged here, prior to the fake gods, prior to the Loosh farm. You wouldn't have weather weapons destroy so much. You wouldn't have endless war. You wouldn't have horrific chemicals being intentionally dumped, self-replicating graphene dioxide and nanotech colonies being intentionally dumped to make it icy white and cold. You wouldn't have to be a slave for your box. You would be able to do creative things a lot more often. As long as the majority think geoengineering is a loony conspiracy theory, a term that was incidentally invented by the CIA to cover their tracks after what occurred with JFK. Alan Dulles, I think, made it up. It is just too easy for the likes of David Keith, Bill Gates, and the Lockheed employees involved to dump this full spectrum wraparound harm, heavy metal, nanotech soup to successfully cool it down and fight global warming, to destroy the fifth element of ether, which doesn't exist, since Einstein's fake-ass postulates, E equals mc square, replaced the common knowledge amongst real scientists prior to this insanity of the ether's vast powers, until the vast powers of the knowledge, wisdom, gnosis of ether was replaced with lies, and now Wi-Fi and nanotech in the public's eye, and every surface level organic thing must suffer this pseudo-invisible war on Gaia. And nearly all of the ether must be rapidly replaced with what's soon to be 6G wireless. 'Cause all that's in the skies are natural clouds that look and act nothing like clouds if you have any discernment and you're honest. Of course, the greatest example of this glaringly obvious facet of the forced hell, loose farm, evil matrix, plan ET is the grand international mad scientist experiment that they attempted to force on everyone about 5 or 6 years ago. Since the moment Carrie Majay turned on the imposter rulers after going to their meeting about the, revelation of the method, and instead made a YouTube video which had to be only shared on BitChute, exposing the plan with luciferase and biometric IDs in 2020 that Microsoft got patent 060606 to do this. Since that moment, I became a medical mafia truth activist and entered a brief phase where the system I'm in now hated me the most. Soon after that, we discovered the entire facts sheet for the attempted forced injections were blank. The entire ingredients list was all blacked out or redacted. We saw millions of folks take these experimental jabs, maybe more than half of all the flesh sacks in this realm, without having any idea, any clue what they were, through fear, agreeing to have injected. All through fear-based coercion. How many formerly good-natured, dumbass friends are now literally just NPCs in your life or existence? This fact alone makes the imposter god, Yaldabaoth, absolutely cocksure this entire realm is his possession. I mean, the fact that went as successfully as it did. The release of the Epstein files, the history of the Khazarian mafia, the truth about the ETs being dripped out slowly, all of this knowledge of all these truths are insignificant in their eyes now, as most humans walk off the cliffs like Hollywood lemmings in obedience to these extremely anti-life, anti-human plans, anti-Christ plans. The false self-emperor can now walk around strutting naked because the majority of humanoids are their living leather suits. In other words, through Humans 2.0 being remote controlled cyborg slaves, or otherwise, through religious dogma or fear or trauma bonds. We are the leather. Our skins are the suits of the 1% robber barons and the evil ET fake gods behind them. Many folks believe they were made in the image of God, but never consider why. If that's true, why they are never creative. Well, the Elohim said in Genesis, "Now, come let us make them in our image." They didn't say that they made us. It says they made us in their plural image. Over 2,000 years later, we see a rise in, well, ever since then, we've seen a slow rise and rapidly, more recently, rapid rise in narcissistic personality disorders, full-scale slavery, and acceptance of slavery as valid. I saw a spray paint on a bridge in Santa Cruz. Born to hustle. The hustle culture. I'm proud. I worked so hard to not die of starvation because I spend all my money on rent working 4 jobs to survive in Santa Cruz. And I'm proud of it. This is what people from a region like this, with over a century of financial slavery, have gotten accustomed to thinking is cute and righteous. And then, of course, Hollywood has promoted the idea vampirism is cool. According to Hollywood, and almost nobody is creative. And just like if this were the Revolutionary War where I was drafted, it's like I was drafted by the true creator to use my creativity to fight. Before the lockdown, I might have never chosen to be creative in this way. Before I supposedly, according to the police report, which suspiciously came out 6 weeks later, fell over on my bike, broke 15 bones, was run over after being run over by a PG&E truck, and the bones all healed in 6 months. A year later, I started the channel. Prior to that accident, I might have just chose to become a musician. But when they lock down the world, when they spray things in the sky to make the perfect weather cold and icy, and that makes my tragic, deadly disease grow back, I do feel that in this iteration, I am in a living, hijacked psychological and physical hell that needs to be destroyed. And I am here, doing my best to tear down the kingdom of hell, because it has no right to be here. Yes, like a psychological soldier who isn't also has the potential to be an artist. I have agreed to use my creativity to tear down the filthy hell realm, because it has no true authority, no true legitimacy, and no true power or reason to be here. It's a black hole that stole all its power from us. The junior gods we were made in the image of is the Antichrist. Christ Sophia is uber creative. Our flawed true goddess is love. But she did have a role in the horror show this realm has become. If this international war on human and spiritual freedom wasn't escalating, I'd focus solely on making music, art, books, being creative, having a sexual relationship, embodiment, doing my best to heal and be good in this realm, creating. Just as I know this filthy sprayed cold metal sky is really a sunny day, I'll tell the truth with the goal of freedom and liberation from this filth, all these multivarious, filthy, pseudo-invisible attacks, and even obvious ones. Yet, now, the Christ within compels me to use my powers to destroy the lies amongst those who will hear this in peace, to work in harmlessness and peace as much as possible to overcome the false self. So do your inner work. Examine your shadow with the magnifying glass. Face your inner darkness. Overturn the bugged vampire's false control. End the fake informed consent for yourself. It seems to me that's the only way it's going to occur. Do not agree. Do not sign a contract under duress. Read the ingredients list in everything.